Year 2 is underway, but I wanted to show off some players I kind of forgot to mention at the end of the last episode. Russell Davis's year in Pittsburgh was pretty decent. Remember, we got a starting offensive tackle in Fordham and a 7th for him and a 5th round pick. Kyle Vanden Bosch missed half of the season with Buffalo, got a 3rd round pick for him. We also released Ryall Johnson at the start of last year. He found a job doing nothing. Being a backup in Houston. Asante Samuel was an emergency depth player. I expected nothing, and I got nothing. While Sadiq Shabazz was actually pretty decent in his time filling in for Adrian Wilson. First order of it, yes, I know. We only won one game. Yeah, let's just go to the retirements. We had 3 players who were considering retirement this offseason, which took me by surprise. Michael Stone is the backup to Dexter Jackson. He's barely going into his 5th season. He's a pretty decent backup to have, and I'm shocked he wanted to retire. This season really sucked the love out of him, and not in a good way. He's not returning. James Darling is another backup. He's an older player backing up an already aging player. I didn't expect him to retire, but I can understand this one a little bit more. I did still try to offer him a contract, but there's not enough money in the world for him to come back. Fine. I didn't want him anyways. Matt O'Dwyer is the final player, and this one really took me by surprise. I thought we'd at least have him finish his contract here. It was a 2-year deal. We got him in the trade with the Bucks last year. Traded Frank Garcia in a 4th round for O'Dwyer in a 5th. He too got the love sucked right out of him. What 1 in 15 does to a man. On the bright side, with all these players retiring, we will get back over $1 million more in cap. Doesn't sound like a lot, but it is, trust me. Big trust. On to the resigning period. We had quite a few players, so let's get right into it. At quarterback, Josh McCown, we knew that he needed a new contract at the start of the season. Truth is, he's not terrible, he's not fantastic, but he did give us our first win, our only win. I wanted to bring him back as a backup for whatever rookie we drafted, and he's relatively cheap. I even released Sean King. He wasn't good, so I could use his money to re-sign McCown. Then I realized he wanted a 7-year deal, and that's a no from me, dog. I don't like long contracts unless you're elite. Emmitt Smith didn't I completely forgot he was on the team. He needed a new contract. He was decent last season. Let's be real. He was better than Ship, but not good enough for that contract. I'm not gonna bring him back. Josh Scobie is not a productive player on his card. He's a special teamer. Returned a touchdown last season on a punt return. I did consider bringing him back since he's pretty cheap, but I just chose not to bring him back. At wide receiver, we have Brian Gilmore needing a new contract. He was an emergency depth chart player, hardly played. I don't need him this coming season. He won't be returning. At tight end, Freddie Jones needs a new contract. He's an older player. I don't think he would want to return to the team since we only had 1 win, but maybe his heart is in Arizona. Maybe we'll run it back for 1 more season. He's down. I'm down. Let's do it. We're in a bit of a pickle. At guard, I wasn't expecting O'Dwyer to be retired, but here we are, and that means I need to re-sign at least one of these guards, then draft one or sign one in free agency. Cameron Spikes is a higher overall, but that can be misleading considering he's not that great at pass blocking and slightly better at run blocking, while Relay Roundhouse Kick is much better in blocking, but he's not as strong and his overall is much lower. Spikes also wanted a 7-year deal, making it easier for me to re-sign Tree Trunk to the team. Moving on to the defensive side, let's be real, we can find an easy replacement in the draft. He's not coming back. We also have a player at defensive end who needs a contract. Dennis Johnson is the 4th best defensive end on the team. That's not terrible considering he's a 69 overall. Nice. We have 4 other players at this position under contract. He's probably going to be expensive. Yep. And he wants a 7-year... He's not coming back. I'm sure you noticed, but Ronald McKinnon needed a new contract. Fantastic season last year. He's up there in experience, but he was a Pro Bowler. It's a no-brainer. I'm bringing him back. Plus, he only wanted a 2-year deal. That's pretty good. We can move on from him quickly if he regresses. Our final player that needs a new contract is Kobe Reinhardt. He didn't really do much last season. man. He's getting up there in age. I've seen regression happen to a lot of corners in this series. I'd rather move on and take a chance on a new player. He's not coming back. These are all the players I'll be moving on from this season. I can see a few of them getting offers in free agency, and speaking of, that's what's up next. Free agency, and immediately the first player that caught my eye was the biggest name, Matt Hasselbeck. The original plan I had was to draft a quarterback and sign a backup. Now I'm thinking of signing our future franchise quarterback and drafting his backup. He wants a lot of money and a long-term deal, and I do think he's worth the length, but that's a lot of money going into the position. I still did offer him that contract. Well, I let that offer cook for a while. I felt the need to sign a guard. I still plan on drafting one, but I think depth is still important. Martin Bibla was a player I wanted to bring in. I know he doesn't seem good on paper, but he's the cheapest out of all the guards out there, and I gave him an offer. Also, my philosophy is win in the trenches. Imagine if we had Matt Light on the offensive line. He's an elite pass blocker, and at this point I'm thinking we're gonna need an elite blindside blocker to protect our most important free agent in Matt Hasselbeck. He wanted a 6-year deal, but it gets cheaper as the years go on. It's a pretty good contract in the long term in my opinion, and I gave him the offer. Now over the course of the next 2 weeks I had a bidding war for Hasselbeck. New Orleans and Jacksonville kept trying to outbid me, and San Francisco and the Chargers gave him offers. And at that point, I just couldn't let the 49ers take him, so finally Washington and Carolina started making a push for him. And you're probably wondering what happened to my cap. Well, we were able to sign Matt Light to the team, and his contract ate a good chunk of our cap. If we signed Hasselbeck, then our cap would drop to under $3 million, and we still have the draft to worry about, and I ended up withdrawing my offer. I considered looking for a backup quarterback in Jeff Blake, who was on the team in 2003, and also looking to Charlie Batch. I don't know about you guys, but I always have a soft spot for the Batch. I didn't sign either of them though. I also wanted to see who was in on the Hasselbeck sweepstakes. It was down to San Diego, Washington, and surprisingly, Philadelphia. In what can only be a head-scratching signing, Philadelphia signed him to be a backup to Donovan McNabb. That's kinda lame. Josh McCown landed in Chicago, Sean King in Tennessee, Emmitt Smith is now a Brownie, while nobody wanted the Bry guy, and Bibla didn't accept our offer and went to Atlanta. Finally, Spikes went to a division rival in the 49ers, and now that free agency is over, it's time for everyone's favorite part, the combine. Yes, for those who don't know how I draft in the first round, quarterback, tackle, halfback, and defensive ends are the only positions that get drafted or selected by the computer, so therefore I only select those positions as well. I typically look at the mock draft as you see here and select anyone here that I may be interested in. Obviously this season I need a quarterback or a running back, and looking through the mock draft, only one quarterback is selected in the first round. Well, we have the first overall pick in the second round, which means I'm leaning running back in the first, quarterback in the second, to make sure I pick the right players. This is where the combine comes into play. I made sure to scout the unanimous number 1 pick in the draft, Austin Gordon. Then I scouted the projected first quarterback taken in May. It looks pretty good. For those who also don't know, if you go to the rookie report menu, the players on the top of the list is typically the best player available in that position. Based on this, the best player at quarterback isn't May, but Gray. They're almost identical in stats, the difference being Gray is a bit more accurate, while May being able to read defenses better. It'll be interesting to see how this draft plays out. And with the first pick in the NFL draft, the Arizona Cardinals select Austin Gordon. I'm sure some of you might argue that we should have drafted May instead, but the truth is we needed a running back and there wasn't going to be this good of a back in the second round. Are we rolling the dice? Yes. But we need snake eyes, and we're rolling only ones because these are the ones. With our second round pick, first overall in the round, we selected Clifton Gray. Looks like Mr. Gray was a solid choice of a pick. He's obviously going to be the starting quarterback going into the season, since Navarre is the only player in the position returning from last year. First quarterback was indeed Martin May. They're both the same overall, though May can read coverages better and has better composure. We'll see how these develop over the years. We're now in the third round. We have two. Remember, the Van den Bosch trade got us a late third rounder, and with the first one, we selected a guard. You know, he's not the best pass blocker, but he's a pretty good run blocker, which is going to benefit Gordon a lot. Thomas Barker is going to have to learn real quick how to keep his quarterback up, though. With the second third round pick, I selected a cornerback. Benjamin Griffith will be filling the hole that Kobe Reinhardt left. He's also going to be our new primary kick returner with Josh Scobie not coming back to the team. We don't have a fourth round pick thanks to the trade with the Bucks, you know, the one where Dwyer retired. We also don't have our original fifth round pick. We gave that to Pittsburgh for Fordham. We do have the Bucks fifth round pick from that trade, and I selected a defensive tackle. You know, that Dwyer trade doesn't hurt as much anymore. I originally drafted McCoy to fill the hole that Kenny King left at defensive tackle. He was just supposed to be depth, but it looks like he's going to be starting next season with Dockett. Now we're off to the later rounds that are specifically to fill depth spots. In the sixth round, I went inside linebacker. James Darling retired, and Arturo Swanson will be filling in that void. He's a solid tackler and a decent pass rusher. In the seventh round, we have two selections, our original pick and the Pittsburgh pick. With the first one, I selected a quarterback. Picking up this good of a quarterback this late in the draft kind of feels like a steal. Is he great? Nah, but he's going to be a decent backup. He's already better than Sean King was last year. And with our final pick in the draft, I selected a free safety. Michael Stone surprised me with retiring way earlier than I expected, and this is his replacement. Not my best draft pick, but he's just depth. So with the offseason over, the preseason is being simulated, and we have some injuries. Two, to be exact. Freddie Jones got paid, then he got hurt. Well, he'll be out for half the year with torn bicep, while Thomas Baker will only be out for 2 games. Well, technically he's not out, but I wouldn't be upset if he decided to sit out until fully healthy. Leonard Davis, yes I know it's Leonard, continues to be the team's best player. Funny enough, even though he's improved 1 overall point, his blocking didn't improve and everything else regressed besides speed, agility, leadership, and consistency. Larry Bird, Larry Legend, Larry Fitzgerald somehow made it into the elite class this year. I don't think he deserves it, but 2K5 has a weird predetermined rating system that I still haven't figured out how it works. Fitzy won't be alone, as Anquan Bolden will be with him as one of the best receiving duos in the league. This one I understand more than Fitzgerald's progression. He absolutely deserves to be here. They're both studs, and they're both going to help out our young rookie quarterback. And just in case you forgot, we got one of the biggest names in free agency in Matt Light, and coming to Arizona just is what he needed to be elite. Clifton Gray has no reason to fail this season. Now the quarterback room looks different this season. Well, Navarre is still a 60, so it's not that different. But Gray will be the starting quarterback this season, and I'll admit, I'm kind of interested in what Guzman can do on this team as well if Gray doesn't work out this season. The starting running back this year will obviously be Austin Gordon. The surprising part to me is how much he improved. I think it was the right decision to draft him. I also think it'll be nice to have Ship as a backup. He's also improved over the last year, and then if we want, we can move on from him after this season, since his penalty will be much lower. The fullbacks are still the same as last year. Hodgins will continue to be the starter. Ian Bendejo is looking like a cap casualty, but we'll see. This season, our wide receivers are much better. I'm a bit surprised that Johnson didn't improve that much, but overall, we're looking good. I'm just not looking forward to re-signing Fitzgerald. Whose bright idea was it to give him a 2-year rookie contract? We're absolutely going to have to look for a tight end somewhere to replace Jones until he comes back from injury. Pete Kendall would be pretty expensive if we decided to bring him back next season. I'm a bit happy knowing that he regressed pretty hard, which means I'm more than likely not going to bring him back because, well, he's probably going to regress again. I'm still salty that Dwyer retired, but at least Barker's looking pretty good. Keep in mind he's injured here, so his rating isn't properly reflected. This is later when he's fully healthy, but yeah, he's pretty good. Our offensive tackles are absolutely banging this season. Not like that. Matt Light may have come at a high price stranger, but he definitely makes this unit feel legit. LJ Shelton also improved, with Fordham being a solid backup if either of the two have to miss any time. Please don't miss any time. You know, I wasn't expecting to be where we are right now at defensive tackle, but I'm okay with it because McCoy is looking like a bargain with that price. We also have Dockett next to him on the line and Bryan as decent depth. Win in the trenches, boys. Defensive end hasn't really changed besides the trade with Vanden Bosch, but they're all improving. At least I don't have to worry about anyone's contract here, even if I don't like how much I'm paying Burt. Outside linebacker is also the same. We have two players who could be cap casualties, considering that we have just under $3 million this year, but I'm happy with Thompson, Dansby, and Fisher. I don't know why I didn't think McKinnon would regress, but he's regressed. He's only under a 2-year deal. I could move on from him next year, and with the way Swan has improved, I might just keep him as a backup in year 3. I'm pretty sure I let Reinhardt go because I was afraid of regression, and this is why. Almost everyone but Macklin and Griffith regressed. Next year is gonna be a purge. Lots of players who will be on their final year. Strong safety hasn't changed at all, really. It's going to be interesting if I choose to bring back Adrian Wilson if he doesn't give a stellar season. Another position that is pretty much the same. Dexter Jackson is edging that elite rating. I wouldn't be surprised if he hits it next season. Our kicker regressed. Well, that's great. Neil Rackers, what are you doing? Scott Player, the punter, has improved slightly, but is better than whatever Rackers was doing. Finally, before we go to the regular season, I wanted to make some roster moves. Chad Gross is a young rookie with potential. I signed him to a cheap deal to be the starter until Jones can return from his injury. I also wanted to move on from Fordham. He's almost a 10-year pro. I don't see him progressing anymore. Might as well get something out of him while I can. I do appreciate him during the tank year. I do. I wanted to send him to Miami for a 4th round pick, but they had too many players on their team, and I ended up adding Rex Hadnot to the deal. He's a guard, and we could use an extra one there anyways. And what's funny about this is that he and Thomas, if they fused, they'd be a great player, but Hadnot is terrible at run blocking, but he's pretty decent in pass protection. While the Dolphins get a solid starter at tackle for their season, I think it's a win-win for both teams. I also wanted to move on from Hayes at outside linebacker. We went looking for a trade partner. While doing this, I found that the Bry guy found the job in Washington. Well, that's nice. I ended up trading with them, not for Bry, but for a 5th round pick and a free safety, Todd Franz. I only added him to the trade so it could be accepted, and I ended up cutting him. While Hayes goes to Washington to be their 3rd best player at outside linebacker, we also picked up our cap to $3.5 million. It's not a lot, but well, it's better than where it was. We're now starting our 2nd season in the rebuild, and it's gonna be against Washington in the season opener. And I'll tell you right now, based on the first drive, is this a different Arizona team that's ready to win? Well, not really. That was the only touchdown going into the 4th quarter, but this defense is built different. An interception that only leads to a field goal, then a blocked punt, and the offense began to drive down the field to put a dagger in the game, and Gray throws an interception. The defense has to come out and clean up the mess, and on 4th down, they do the job, giving us our first win of the year. We're 1-0, and we're not satisfied yet. Not a fantastic showing from the 2 rookies on offense, but it was their first game, while Fitzgerald showing why he's elite. It's too bad he's out for 2 weeks now. Fantastic. Thankfully for him, after this week, there's a bye week, but before we go there, our week 2 matchup against the Houston Texans. The Arizona offense is just different this season. They're sustaining long drives and ending them in the end zone. They're up 7-0 late in the 1st quarter, and Gordon is showing why he was selected 1st overall, giving Arizona a 14-0 lead. One thing that was disappointing last season was this defense would allow long drives, and they do it again here to allow it to be a 1-score game again. Then right before the end of the half, Texans kick a 55-yarder to cut the lead to 4 points. Halfway through the 3rd, the Cardinals offense does enough to get them into field goal range, and Neil Rackers misses a 48-yarder, which allows the Texans to gain some momentum, and they march down the field easily to gain the lead for the first time. Up 14, now down 14-17. Gray hits Johnson for a big play to regain the lead, and we're now down to the final 2 minutes. All the Cardinals choosing to do is run the clock out, but on third down, they fail to complete the pass, giving Houston one last chance, and they score on one big play. Doesn't that look familiar? If Neil Rackers makes that kick, or if the Houston kicker misses his kick, the outcome of this game is completely changed. Or, run the ball on third down. Either way, let's move on to week 3. Bye week. Last year, we weren't remotely competitive against the Rams. This will be a good gauge to see where we are compared to last season. We're not good. We're still not good. On the bright side, Griffith, as a return man, is paying dividends. But without his touchdown, it's a 35-7 game, and this team really needs some secondary help. I don't know if you've noticed already, but look at the schedule. 4-0 Texans, 3-1 Rams, 3-1 Titans this week, and then the 3-1 Vikings. Where are the easy games? Even though we've been playing against some tougher competition, this team is still able to move the ball down the field. This drive would only end in a field goal. Unfortunately, the same problems persist again, giving up big pass plays on defense, letting the Titans take the lead with a Chris Brown touchdown run. The following Cardinals drive, rookie Clifton Gray put on a masterful performance to move them down the field on a long drive, ending in a touchdown run themselves by Marcel Shipp. They would force the Titans to punt on their next drive, back on their own 1-yard line, and after that great drive by Gray, he throws an interception. That leads to another Chris Brown touchdown run right before the end of the half. The Cardinals did manage to get an interception, and they were able to move it closer to field goal range for Neil Rackers to miss a 38-yarder. So now we go to the fourth quarter, Titans ball, they're moving it down the field, and a touchdown can pretty much end the game, but the Cardinals force them to punt the ball, and Benjamin Griffith returns his second touchdown in back-to-back games, and this one to give them the lead. It's now the final 2 minutes, Titans ball, and on a fourth down, just like last week, another big play to put the Titans up 21-17. Well, now it's the rookie's turn to show that he has the clutch gene in him, converting one fourth down, and on another fourth down, it's dropped by Johnson. And now will be the game. That's a quarter of the season, and out of the 4 games, 3 of them came down to the final drive, and I can't believe how rough the season has been to start. We could be 3-1, instead we're 1-3, and because of our pass defense giving up big plays in the final minutes. We're now on to another tough matchup against the Minnesota Vikings this week. Right off the bat, this game looks like it's going to be a tough one, as the Vikings just march down the field easily for their first points in the game. But the Cardinals have some big playmakers on their team, like Anquan Boldin, tying the game up at 7. Skipping to the second quarter on fourth down, Cardinals get bailed out by a Vikings penalty that extends the drive all the way down to the end zone thanks to another Boldin touchdown. And the Cardinals would get the ball once again before the 2-minute warning, and Fitzgerald showing that Boldin isn't the only guy that can make big plays. They'll now be up 21-7 going into the half. In the third, a block punt would allow the Vikings to gain some momentum, but only 3 points to shorten the lead. Near the end of the third, Cardinals added a field goal, and they have the ball again, and I don't know how, possibly a fumble, but the Vikings got the ball back. It would only lead to another field goal. Defense is doing its job. All Arizona needs to do is run the clock, and on second down, they throw an interception. It took just a few plays before they got into the end zone, and a 2-point conversion makes it a 3-point game. All Arizona needs to do is run the clock, and they pass it going 3 and out. Vikings ball, they go 3 and out, and the Cardinals went 3 and out again. Then the Vikings, in the final 2 minutes, they just woke up. Just like Houston, just like Tennessee, the Vikings score on a big pass play in the final minute to take the lead, and it's now up to Clifton Gray, and he just throws 4 straight incompletions. At this point, we're the Cardiac Cardinals. We could be 4-1, probably should be 4-1, but instead we're crumbling apart. We're just crumbling at the end of each game. We are what our record says we are. Now we have another matchup against a 1-loss team. This has got to be the most difficult schedule in the history of schedules. This game was not as close as it looked. The final touchdown came on the final play, a fumble recovery, forced score by Dexter Jackson. I don't mind losing games like this because it's less stress on my heart. Finally, we have a matchup that I feel a little bit more confident in. Week 7 against the New Orleans Saints. In the fourth quarter, Arizona down 6-7, 2 field goals by Rackers keeps it close, and to start this quarter, Nate Poole makes a big play to gain the lead. They did fail the 2-point conversion. Then the following drive, Saints marching, and we've seen this happen plenty of times this season, but Mac Daddy with the interception. That would lead to another 3 points by Rackers to make it an 8-point game. With 3 minutes left in the game, New Orleans is running out of time, and they begin to start marching down the field, slowly getting yards here and there, easily bullying the Cardinals defense, pushing into the red zone, and on 4th and 1, they convert and eventually punch it in with less than 30 seconds left in the game. The 2-point conversion is no good, and for some stupid reason the kickoff went out of bounds and they put the ball at Arizona 0. They still managed to run the clock out, but that was stupid. Well, the Cardiac Cardinals won their second game of the season, and in the only way they could, by having the game come down to the final drive. Can we please have a blowout win? It'd make me really happy. We're now at the halfway point and we take on the 6-2 Colts. Did I mention the schedule's rough? We start in the middle of the third. Cardinals are down 10 points, and on 4th down, the Colts commit a penalty, which gives Arizona some life, and the kid, Gordon, marches the team down to make it a 3-point game. Then the first play for the Colts on their next drive is intercepted by Dexter Jackson, and the Colts defense was very undisciplined, giving up 2 penalties to start the drive, then again on 4th down to extend the drive, giving Arizona another opportunity, and Fitzgerald makes the most of it. Cardinals are now up 17-13, and I don't know, I guess the Colts were upset and suddenly started playing for reals now, easily just marching down the field and scoring in the fourth quarter to regain the lead. So with over 3 minutes left, Cardinals march the ball to midfield, and on 4th and 1, they punted. They never got the ball back again. That was the stupidest decision that I had ever seen. I don't know why you wouldn't go for it, knowing how well the Colts were moving.
Colts, Cardinals. Peyton Manning calling signals at the 9-yard line. Crowd into it now. Rolls right. And look at this toss across his body between defenders, picture perfect 6.
It wasn't a cardiac moment, but you might as well not have a heart if you're not going to go for it there. We now have an easier competition in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this week. You know, I was hoping this was going to be an easy game, and you know, it was close at one point. It was 13-17, then Rackers missed a field goal again, then the floodgates opened and we never recovered. Well, at least we didn't have to worry about our heart rate this week. We have another easy matchup on paper, at least, against the 2-win Falcons. Right before the half, Falcons up 10-7, and one of the best draft picks in the past year doing more work. Griffith returns another punt for a touchdown to give them the lead going into the half. Then to start the second half, Cardinals add another touchdown thanks to big play Johnson. At the end of the third, a big play by Fitzgerald gets them into field goal range, and to start the fourth, Rackers misses another kick. That would have made it a 2-touchdown game. Then the Falcons pretty much just ran it down the Cardinals' throats before capping it off with a touchdown, then converting the 2 points to make it a 3-point game. Then somehow, before the 2-minute warning, the Falcons got the ball back. Turnover, maybe? I don't know. Which would lead to another Trung candidate touchdown for the lead. And once again, it's up to Gray to make a comeback, and he converts not just 1 but 2 fourth downs, but just not enough time to get it in. We're now 2-8 on the year, could be 8-2, and had Rackers made that chip shot earlier, all the team would have needed was a field goal to win it at the end. The Cardiac Cardinals, everyone. Neil Rackers has been a complete bust this season, and I released him. I just can't. He keeps missing kicks that are important. His replacement for the rest of the season will be Doug Bryan. Is he better? Not really. But I'm tired of seeing Rackers on here, to be honest. We're now coming down to the final stretch of games at this point. I feel robbed, but let's get it over with anyways. First matchup against the Seattle Seahawks this week. Cardinals up 14-10 to start the second half. They're running all over the Seahawks, easily getting into the red zone, and Gray throws an interception. Moving to the fourth quarter, same score. Seahawks ball at the 2, and they move out of their own end zone, getting closer to midfield. Then the Cardinals give up a big play. If you don't like big plays to give up the lead in the final quarter, then you don't like Arizona football. The Cardinals have a chance to regain the lead, easily moving across midfield, and before the 2-minute warning, on fourth down at the 34, a 51-yard field goal, and I don't even know what happens. It's just Seattle's ball. What happened? Arizona wouldn't be in scoring position again.
Seahawks, Cardinals. Corin Robinson is at the 19-yard line, but they'll definitely keep an eye on him, will that defense? One man chucks him. Oh, he just bowls past him. Beautiful touchdown.
Could be 9-2. Instead, we're 2-9. Are we a good team? I don't even know. Or are we a team that just plays just below the level of our competition? The only positive I can take from all of this is that we have 2 wins, and that's more than last year. Well, we had a rough start to the year, but now we had a month of technically easy games, and we're struggling to finish them off. Can we play a complete game against the 49ers? It's near the third quarter, and the Cardinals are up, but by only 1 point. They march across midfield, which would lead to a 43-yarder from Doug Bryan. The 49ers would answer back by giving a long drive, marching down, but this one ending in a touchdown to give them the lead in the final 2 minutes. Gray has to do it once again, march down and either tie or win the game in the final 2 minutes, converting a big fourth down not once but twice, and they were 4 yards and 4 seconds from winning the game, and they went for the tie. Doug Bryan not missing that easy one. Then in overtime they would get the ball first, relying on their ground game, and they're just bullying the 49ers defense, giving Bryan an easy 30-yarder, giving them their 3rd win of the year. Gordon has been playing out of his mind, Bolden putting up great numbers, while the hero of the game is Bryan for not missing a single kick. I don't think Rackers wins that game for us. There was a big injury in this one. Dexter Jackson will miss the remainder of the season with a broken hand. And now on to the final 4 games of the year, and we now take on the reigning, defending Super Bowl champions. You know, the only team we beat last year. I'm sure they're looking for revenge. They may be looking for it, but the Cardinals weren't giving anything. They were up 10-6 and made it 17-6 with this Fitzgerald touchdown. Panthers weren't just going to give up. They were marching down the field, getting inside the red zone, and poof, Cardinals ball. I have no clue what happened. Fumble? I don't know. Then in the final 2 minutes, Cardinals just need to run the clock. That's all. Run it and win it. They throw an interception. Panthers score immediately, and then they get the 2 points, and now it comes down to an onside kick that they don't get, and the Cardinals survive another week. For the first time in this series, we have a winning streak. I don't know how or why, but it seems like we have the Panthers' numbers. I'm not gonna complain. You know, if we win out and the Rams lose out, we could still win the division. Well, there goes that plan. It was hopeful thinking, but we did much better this week against the Rams. Probably the best matchup we've had against them. But let's be clear, this was a 1-15 team last year. That's now a 4-win team this year with mostly the same players. Having the game be this close is actually an improvement in my eyes. Another injury, Bryant Johnson fractured his arm. It might be time to move on from him. Seems like he's just injury prone, but I'm also confused. Where's Jackson? Didn't he break his hand? Looks like he's got that Wolverine healing gene. Since we're also in the final 2 games of the year, there's really nothing to play for at this point. I'm benching Gray for the last 2 games and starting Guzman, doing the Russell Wilson treatment. The second to last game of the year will be against the Seattle Seahawks. Can we split the matchup this year? Going to the final 2 minutes, Cardinals have a nice lead, 21-10. It'd be a real shame if it went all the way because of a big pass play. Fuck. They also made the 2-point conversion to make it a 3-point game. Then, like expected, we went 3 and out and gave the ball back to Seattle, and on 4th and 5 to keep the game alive, the Cardinals did the unthinkable. They actually held out for the win.
Cardinals, Seahawks. Gordon is backed up in his own territory. Tries to bounce outside. He'll have the first down. shakes another tackle, goes down the sidelines. Wait a minute. Yes, the ref said his feet were in. He could go all the way, 73 yards.
Guzman, like Gray, won his first ever career start, mostly thanks to Gordon, who basically been carrying the team for the past few weeks. The final game of the year will be against the San Francisco 49ers. A nail-biter last time. Can they sweep them with a win here?
49ers, Cardinals. Tim Rattay looking over the defense from the 22-yard line. And a pump fake. Everybody stops. Oh, that buys the time for the TD.
It wasn't even close. Guzman looked terrible out there. Ratata was feasting on us, and I don't really know what else to say other than Gordon had a good game. Burt Berry also ended up getting injured. I think the second off season is going to be interesting, but we'll worry about that when we get there. We finished the season 5-11. I think we could have easily been 11-5 if some of the games go our way. We also had a real tough start to the season, but no excuses because the schedule lightened up and we still couldn't win. We're there, I can feel it. We're right on the edge of being a good team. We're so close I can almost taste it. Clifton Gray is going to be the leader going into next year, maybe. I'm not exactly sold on him yet, but he's done enough this year for me to consider him. I'm a bit bummed out he didn't throw for over 3,000. I know he didn't play the final 2 games, but you have Fitz and Bolden. There's no excuses. Josh McCown improved so much in overall. He had an okay season with the Bears. I think we might have made the right choice to move on from him, but man, he could have been a really good backup. Guzman looked decent before his, demise against the 49ers. He's a 7th round pick. I don't see him as anything more than a backup as of right now, but who knows what the future has for him. Commissioner Gordon had a heck of a season at this point. It's unanimous. I think we made the right decision drafting him. He won the rushing title this season. He was the best running back in the NFL. Means he won the Offensive Rookie of the Year, right? Who the heck is Ralph Neal? I have no idea how this guy snuck around being so sneaky good. He was a very well-rounded quarterback. I'm a bit upset. How do we not draft him in the 2nd round? Anyways, Marcel Shipp proved to me that it's time to move on. Emmitt Smith had a fantastic season as a backup, but Shipp can barely get 3.5 yards. Speaking of Smith, how'd his season go? Turns out Browns cut him. Signed with the Broncos and his ratings dropped off a cliff. I'm glad I didn't re-sign him. Larry Fitzgerald had himself a much better season this year. I think with a better quarterback, he would have been cooking. He's also in need of a new contract. I'm scared. Anquan Bolden had a down year, but with him no longer being the main target this season, that was to be expected. Imagine if we had a quarterback like Hasselbeck on this team throwing him the ball. Also, Hasselbeck didn't play a snap this season. What a waste of money from the Eagles. Bryant Johnson was having his best season of his career. I think he's a good player, but his injuries are going to catch up to him eventually, and I need a backup plan. Freddie Jones had just as good of a season, maybe even better than last year. Even missing half the season, he performed really well. Sad to say, he's probably not going to come back next season. Ronald McKinnon led the team in tackles again this season. He's a 10-year vet. I just don't think he's going to be starting in his 11th season. Burt Berry led the team in sacks. I'm torn on Berry. I really like his name. I just feel like after the season, regression is going to hit him hard and we're going to have to move on from him. Carlos Dansby was 2nd in sacks. I'm really loving the development of Dansby. I think it's a matter of time before he's just the best player on defense. Arturo Swanson is the backup to McKinnon, and all he did was have 5.5 sacks. No biggie. Calvin Pace, another nice name, and he's still young, getting better. He's going to be an anchor on the defensive line. Adrian Wilson is another young player hitting his prime. He had a better season this year. He's going to need a new contract. Do I give him one? The most shocking player, Dexter Jackson, made the Pro Bowl. Wait, wasn't he in 89 before the season? What the heck? I don't know how I feel about this. We'll see if it goes back, if this is permanent. We got Mac Daddy here leading the team with 3 interceptions. Not great, but the whole cornerbacks group had a down year. Doug Bryan wasn't fantastic, but we beat the 49ers with them, and that's all that matters. Scott Player had about the same year as he had last year. It's nice to have consistency for once. While the rookie Benjamin Griffith had 3 returns for a touchdown, he also made the Pro Bowl as a special teamer. Really quick, Favre ended up being a Raider somehow. I don't even know how this stuff happens. We're now in the wild card. Vanden Bosch Bills take on the Emmitt Smith Broncos. Sean King's Titans take on the old Emmitt Smith Browns. McCown's Bears take on the Bry Guys Washingtons. While Atlanta takes on the Panthers. Remember when Carolina was 9-3? And you also remember when Atlanta was 2-7? And this game is wild. Almost all the wild card teams won. In the divisional round, all the teams that had bye weeks, Patriots, Colts, Vikings, and Rams. All but one team from the wild card moved on, but boy were they all close games. In the conference round, 3 of 4 teams we should have beaten: Titans, Colts, Vikings. And it looks like Sean King has a chance to earn a ring. Can his team do us a solid and prevent the Rams from having bragging rights this season? Thank you, Air McNair. With the season over, we're predicted to have the 7th overall pick, and I'm not quite sure what we need to fix this team right now. Well, besides a better secondary. Now, before I end the video, thanks once again to all the people who joined the membership, ONT6 Soldier. I do want to do more tiers and have rewards, like having you be one of the draft selections in one of the rebuilds. I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm also trying my best to make these videos shorter. I know this one's long, but it's just hard to do that when, especially with all those nail biters this season, but expect it to be trimmed down a bit more in the next video. I'll see you all in Season 3.